Hello. Hi. Thanks to the organizers for having me and to all of you for sticking around on this Saturday to hear a bit about offshore wind. So I'm sort of kicking off this session, as you heard, and I'm thankful to my colleague Cindy, who laid a bit of groundwork about this offshore wind development, because my presentation will be heavy on the science, and I'll get a little bit into an offshore wind case study at the end, but you'll have to wait for Arnie's talk, I think, to learn more about what the plans are for offshore wind off of Humboldt. A little bit about my program, which is CeNCOOS, the Central and Northern California Ocean Observing System. So we're part of the Integrated Ocean Observing System out of NOAA. There are 11 regional associations around the country, and the Central and Northern California region is one of those. We're housed in the National Ocean Service of NOAA, and we represent 17 federal agencies who are engaged and interested in ocean observing activities. Here at CeNCOOS, we're focused around a healthy and prosperous coastal ocean enabled by information solutions, and we work a lot in this translational data space by creating information and products for our stakeholders. And we define stakeholders pretty broadly, and all of our systems are designed by engaging with those stakeholders about their priorities, and increasingly we're hearing that priorities across Central and Northern California are focused around offshore wind. So we're sort of sharpening our approaches to deal with this. And so just a bit of introduction, because I think this is our first symposium having a presentation, although I've called into a number of these. There's 4 sort of core staffers at CeNCOOS, and we're housed down in Monterey Bay, the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. Henry is the director, and then I work closely with him. And so now I'm based out of Cal Poly. I'm actually local here and helping to lead this program, and partly a response to this offshore wind activity, but also sort of noting the important oceanographic features along the coast of Northern California, and an important constituency to try to reach. I'm also doing some work with California Sea Grant around climate resilience, and focused on engaging with shellfish growers and fishermen. We have a couple of data scientists in our program, and that's really crucial to part of our work, which is integrating data across the region and the West Coast to inform decision making. I'll note that we have Megan McKenzie in my program. She leads the animal telemetry networks for the nation. So all of the animal tagging data sort of runs through my program into a national repository as well. And then 2 CeNCOO staffers, and I'll talk about what CeNCOO is a little bit, but this is really where our offshore wind program is developing. But importantly, we implement our program by supporting a fleet of oceanographic experts throughout the region, mainly through the CSU and UC systems. And I also want to note, sort of embedded under this cohort of our PIs, it's another layer of technicians, student researchers, research faculty, and this doesn't sort of note all of the partners and drivers of our program throughout the state and federal agencies. And so this is sort of a snapshot of what our current observing activities are. And we support the state's high frequency radar network. So these are surface current antennas that sit along the coast and feed into operations by the U.S. Coast Guard, SAR-ops, and oil spill response, and so on. We have 3 continuous glider lines. Those are the lines that extend offshore and were mentioned early in the conference. So these are these robotic instruments that can dive down to 1,000 meters and collect measurements of the ocean sort of in real time. We have 15 of these automated shore stations or more, 3 around Humboldt Bay, and that's not counting the site out at Hog Island and Samoa or Telluride Island. All of this data is brought into our DMAC system, the data management and cyber infrastructure. we have nearly 1,000 data streams that feed into our CalOOS portal, and I'll link you to that in a bit. So largely my presentations look something like this. We do lots of updates on very current conditions in our data. We strive for real time because that's really what folks want and need to make decisions about their use and interaction with the coastal ocean. Our slides also usually have way too much information like this one does. But this talk isn't sort of a state of the coast, and maybe it should have been, but I'll show a couple of more slides. So this is sort of directly out of our portal. The map on the left shows sea surface temperatures from a couple of days ago. It says February 23rd, it's newer. And then the plots on the right, these are temperature anomaly plots. So the redder and longer those lines appear, that's how much warmer the last 360 days have been prior to the average across the time series that we have. And some of these stations, these are moorings, go back, you see the one at Point Reyes goes back to 1996. And so building these time series so we can understand what the coastal conditions are in the context of how things were previously is really important to us and helps us feed into things like understanding these marine heat waves and heat anomalies. And so you see a couple of pictures on the left that show sort of current conditions. And in the middle, this is one of the more extreme marine heat waves, just to demonstrate sort of how things compare again. And then on the right, you see a product that we've developed in my program that's like super high resolution and gives you a forecast of where these sort of pockets of anomalously warm water appear. And so you're getting into April 10th, and this was where it's red, it was a forecast where I pulled this. And a lot of this is driven by and really important system off the North Coast and throughout the region around coastal upwelling. And this was talked about earlier in the agenda. But upwelling, it not only brings this sort of old and cold nutrient-rich water up to the surface and the near shore, but it drives a lot of our ecosystem, sort of across multiple trophic levels. So for instance, like where you see these feeding frenzies before, like in Monterey Bay, where you have the little fish show up, they're eating the tiny plankton that bloom from this nutrient-rich water. And then, of course, you see the sea lions and the whales are there, and the birds show up, and all of this is driven by this really important process called upwelling. We also look a lot at ocean acidification because we are in this region of sort of maximum upwelling, and you see this around Cape Mendocino. There are also a lot of concerns about increasing rates of ocean acidification. And this is the natural process by which the ocean takes up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But as we continue to burn more and more carbon dioxide, the ocean becomes increasingly acidic. And related to this is hypoxia and deoxygenation in our bottom waters. And you do see off of Oregon this seasonal hypoxia along the bottom waters. And this is a real concern for the Dungeness crab fishery because Dungeness crab, like all other organisms, need oxygen. And so how do we apply what we've been doing to deliver on sort of physics and chemistry for informing ecosystem management? And so this is something we've worked a lot towards in the last few years, partly through this work with the Marine Biodiversity Observing Network, whereby we're starting to work more with data from vessels, from nets, animal telemetry, the tagged animals, but also acoustics, imaging, and genomics, so the eDNA that was discussed, to sort of build standardization across these types of data sets so that they can be used and accessible in more real time. So So typically, conventional approaches to collecting ecosystem level data is around these diver surveys. You do sampling, sure, I gotta speed up, ship sampling and so forth, but it can take months and usually years to get information that's useful to folks out of that type of sampling. And so we're moving more towards video, imaging, eDNA, passive acoustics, and animal tagging to help get at some of this information. And so here's just a couple of examples of things you can glean from this emerging suite of technologies. So we're using passive acoustic, the sync sound program, to listen for whale calls, which we're now able to run through a machine learning program to identify blue and fin whales. And this is all ported through a website that you can go and access and find the closest whales to your site of interest. We have these imaging devices to monitor for harmful algal blooms. So these are imaging flow cytobots. Excitingly, we have one of these out in Samoa, co-located with Hog Island Oyster Company. They take pictures of plankton every 6 seconds, and we're hooking it up to some machine-readable classification to identify harmful species of algae in real time. And the idea is that we'd send out some sort of alert when a harmful algal species is identified. eDNA monitoring, so we're actually building long-term time series using eDNA now. So I'll just point you to the top right figure where you can see dating back to 2008, 2009, sort of the richness and species diversity. And as you move towards sort of more present times, you see sort of dominating species and less diversity across the trophic levels. And so this is something we're starting to build up here off of the Trinidad headline, largely just taking samples and freezing them until we can raise money to do some more analysis. There's really cool technology developing, putting imaging on some of our gliders. This is a long range AUV on the right that was developed out of Mbari, and the smaller spray on the left where we're deploying acoustic receivers. And so all of this we're attempting to pull into useful products and dashboards for decision making for stakeholders. And so this is really driven by folks like you all in the room and how we design and develop these. And we want to do more of this, and particularly for offshore wind. So the figure in the bottom right is a product that was developed out of the Mid-Atlantic, one of these IUS regional associations. And this is the type of stuff we're looking at and looking to avenues like some legislation, AB 80, to set up the science advisory board where we can really start to engage in a meaningful way. This is just a note to say we understand that there's a huge amount of data being generated through these systems, and we're working on ways to improve the processing of that data, and including through this Fathomverse, which is a video game where folks can go in and annotate imaging data that they see. Okay, this is what I really wanted to talk about today, and I only have 2 minutes left, but there's a program that we're developing out of Monterey Bay called CeNCOOS. It's a co-design lab to synchronize technology for industry. And there's 3 sort of pillars of this work: testing and evaluation of emerging technology. And so we're using a suite of platforms, including the test tank in Monterey Bay, to test promising new technologies to really get at this ecosystem and biology issue. We're doing this low-cost tech procurement, so we're buying up a bunch of low-cost technology and deploying it across the region. Hopefully we'll get some of these up here. And then there's this case study around offshore wind, and so I'll just talk about that quickly. This is really shaping up to be sort of an observing blitz to get at a bunch of different concerns related to offshore wind. And here are some of those concerns, those impacts that we've heard about. And the number one issue that we're hearing from our cohort, which is a bit scientific and technical, is this potential complicating issue around upwelling, because it is such a critical driver of so many of our ecosystems. There's also this bat and bird interaction, presence of vessels Cindy got to this a bit, but this is more about impact with marine mammals, this issue around noise. And so we've designed an observing approach to sort of tackle as many of those high priority issues that we've heard about as possible. And this is going to be rolling out starting next week. It's happening in Monterey Bay, but it's something that can be replicated up here, and that is the hope. And again, using all of these data to sort of hone in on our ability to monitor for and predict and document changes to upwelling if they occur. And so I'll just close again by saying we have an array of information product solutions that we can deliver for you all, for this community and for industry. And we're excited to work with you all to co-develop more of these. Thank you.